and welcome to another episode of Voxtero, Olaniwun Ajayi's podcast, where we explore the dynamic intersections of law. Today, we are thrilled to bring you an exciting discussion led by Toyosi Alabi, partner in charge of IP, entertainment, and media practice. Joining us is a very special guest, Bodunrin Sasore, popularly known as Bibi. He is a renowned Nigerian screenwriter, film director, and co-founder of Nemsa Studios. Bibi is celebrated for his work on films such as God Calling, Before 30, and of course, the award-winning production Breath of Life. In today's episode, we explore the unique legal challenges and complexities in producing a top-charting Nollywood film. We thank Bibi for his custom over the years and for joining us on Voxtero. We hope you enjoy this insightful conversation brought to you by Olaniwun Ajayi LP.
Congratulations, Bibi, and thank you for joining us today. Let me start by saying we're very proud. Olaniwun Ajayi is proud. Nigeria is proud. Nollywood is very proud. And on a personal, highly personalized note, the fact that the genre of Breath of Life was Christian value-based. I'm super thrilled. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It's been a long time coming. We've been on this journey for some time. I want to take a moment to really thank Olaniwun Ajayi for being with us for many years, even when the lights were not bright, when we still had one or two small productions, and we won't be here without you, for sure. Thank you so much.
We're very happy to partner with you as always. So you're a veteran now.
Yep, apparently.
So many things you've done. So what would you say, whether in relation to Breath of Life or any of your previous productions, that are peculiar or unique challenges that you have faced in the entire production spectrum, and how did you overcome them?
So, anybody sort of dealing in Nollywood sort of has, and even people outside Nollywood have an understanding of the several challenges that Nigeria comes with. I don't even think you need to be a practitioner in the film industry to know that. I always tell the anecdotal story about foreigners who come from out of town and they're doing sound, and the first time they get here they take off their headphones with all the generator hum that we are so accustomed to, and that's just peculiar to Nigeria. You don't get that anywhere else. I think in general, on a broad level, talent is abundant but not found, and not well paid. And so you have to really sort of search, and sort of talent acquisition is a big thing. I'll explain what that means for Nemsha and for myself, but I think that's probably the biggest challenge. People think it's financing and distribution. I think what all those things affect is talent, because there's not enough resource and money yet. It is still just a sexy business, not a stable business for people. And when that's the case, you can't really attract the best talent. I'm sure Olaniwun Ajayi, searches for the best lawyers in every class every year. That's basically how production companies want to function as well, and that's sort of a bit tricky. At Nemsha, we say that we don't like to have anybody on set that we can afford. It's a weird, but it works for us for now, because we feel as if we can afford you, then you're not of the quality of talent that we want.
Oh, wow.
And we were, at least for Breath of Life, I could say that, a prideful point for us is that everything was done in Nigeria across the entire value chain. It used to be that certain things we weren't able to do, VFX, certain levels of production design and things like that, but we were able to do all of that in Nigeria. Maybe some stunt things you still want to bring abroad, some wire throws and things like that, but honestly, everything is available here and now. And so talent acquisition, I think, in the broadest of sense, is the biggest challenge. There's obviously the going to Ibadan, for 30 days, you eat amala till you're blue in the face. But those things are, relatively easy for Nigerians to deal with. Yes. All of us, you've had to climb on a Okada bike at some point. I don't know when the last time you were on a bike was. But, those things are all, basic challenges that everybody faces. But the big thing people think is finance. However, I find that, at least for us at Nemsha and for myself, to feel comfortable to sort of devolve power to the level that I can focus on the story and the things that I have domain expertise. I wouldn't argue with a sound person about sound. So I need to get the best sound person so that I can devolve that power to that person. And so I would say talent acquisition is the biggest challenge.
And the fact that it's localized, that Nigerianization means and makes your production very authentic. And I think with that authenticity is quality. You're so renowned for quality. So for you to be able to source all through Nigeria for all that talent and across various sectors is highly commendable.
Thank you very much.
But it's amazing though that whilst you're focused on talent, quality, of course you did mention finance and we're going to come to that in a few minutes, you also know the value of ensuring that you're well protected, that the intellectual property behind all you do is protected, that the legal documentation that is required every step of the way is in place. We have had our own challenges as lawyers dealing with various creatives. Different people are at different stages of understanding and appreciation of what it takes from a legal perspective to make your production bankable. How have you been able to convince yourself, first of all, and then also overcome the legal hurdles that you have faced, particularly in relation to those who you need to get to sign respective contracts?
First of all, I think you identified a polarity that is quite obvious. In general, filmmaking is emotional, it's organic, it's intuitive, it's instinctive, and that's, feels sort of opposite to structure and, contracts and things like that. And more so in Nollywood, filmmaking, the energy that drives Nollywood came from, thin air, came from, late 90s, people just picking up a small camera and recording stories. Yes, they were 16 hours and part 10, but they were fantastic, and that's what we've all come to love. And that energy drives Nollywood till today. And so that is anathema to, here's a long contract from Olaniwun Ajayi, that's a scary name, and read it and get your own lawyer and so on. But I think you must go into it knowing that it's fundamental. That structure is important, especially if you're playing on a larger scale, which we're fortunate enough to be doing so now. Structure. It's as fundamental as story. They always say you don't have a movie if you don't have a story. You also don't have a project if you don't have the structure, the legal structure that holds it together. I will say what I do find to be the challenges have been the two sort of opposite ends of the spectrum, which is the lower end of the value chain. How far down do you need to worry about protecting yourself, right? These vendors that are sort of daily vendors, take the caterer who's cooking rice and amala for you in Ibadan. Is it a good use of resource, as well as does she have the wherewithal to get a contract from Olaniwun and go through it and all those things? And while you say you want to protect yourself, even if you have the budget, is that a good use of resource, so to speak? And so how far down that value chain, which would be interesting to hear your perspective on. And then on the other side of it, the really high-end, complex, contractual, geographical sort of structures that need to be made. You're dealing with Amazon, it's $1 trillion company, you're a speck of dust, but you have to be respected in that room. You bring Olaniwun Ajayi, okay, you're stepping up a bit, but it's still complex. Who's governing the law? What city? Who has IP rights? I know how long you guys spent sort of counseling us on that, on separating that from production. A slate deal. Who makes the changes? Who agrees to what? All those things. And then, in general, the bigger the check, the company is that, the more everybody gets, for lack of better terms, greedy, as do we. We say, is Amazon, they must pay us correctly, and every actor is thinking the same, and every vendor is thinking the same. And so that structure, music rights, that in its own right is something that I'm sure takes a lot of time to, does this person actually have the rights to this license, is a label? So the simple answer is structure is fundamental. It must be done. And you must get competent, formidable hands that understand, the legal practice to represent you and partner with you on the journey.
Thank you. And really, that is what is key. And I remember you did share about the challenges you have had on account of the fact that speed is very key. And no one wants the time to start going through a series of legal documentation, particularly where they're not the off-taker. All they are is cast or crew or minor crew, so to speak. But what we would say is we basically would segment everybody you're engaging based on the risks that you are exposed to. There's low end, medium, and high risk. So the person who is your amala supplier in Ibadan, for example, all you need to do is to consider what part is she playing in relation to the set. The risks do not get lower, or should I say they get higher when she realizes that, oh, this is a production, oh, there's money in it. And someone may just put her up to wanting to have her own share of the pie. But you really don't have all the time to start engaging her contractually. So a simple verbal oral binding contract is fine. Just make sure they're witnesses. If there's any other supplier, keep a record of all your WhatsApps, your email correspondence, and that in itself could be sufficient legal backing for you. Should something be thrown up, such as use of image rights or any other thing. And then, of course, for the more complex ones, then you know that you have to have proper legal documentation. But we have learned that from a commercial point of view, the length of the contract matters. So you can simplify or make complex based on who precisely is at the other end of the table. And the advantage of using a full service firm is to be able to run your legal structure and contractual documentation simultaneously in line with the production timelines, so that as more people come on board, you're able to churn out whatever documents you need, and we can still work with you in relation to the timelines that you have within your allowance.
Wow.
Well,
Excellent.
but we now come to the big elephant. Yes, financing. I mean, you've done TV, you've done movie. You've talked about music synchronization as well, which also, we know the money that needs to go into licensing in that regard. What are the challenges you have faced in sourcing finance? And I know you have had various models, and it would be good for you to share what those models have been and which ones have worked better for you.
Okay, well, at the end of this answer, I'll throw it back to you as to how you've been able to afford to support companies like us for years.
We'll take that off camera.
But yes, but then again, I think in general, financing is a struggle world over, and it's also sector agnostic. Even the biggest sort of movie producer in our world is probably Muabudu. I'm sure she still struggles with financing. But overall, we've been fortunate. I will caveat that by saying, staying power is important and will is important. Most people don't know this, but the first thing we did, which was before 30, actually turned a profit, and nothing has turned a profit since then. Even Breath of Life, which is quite shocking to people, because you see billboards everywhere and all that. And we're given quite a bit of money. The budget was 500,000. We just decided to spend it all on the film, which many people would say is silly. But I think there are multiple models. I'll try and go through them relatively quickly. But there's a cinema window which still exists in our world.
Yes.
It's not as robust as it should be. We have maybe somewhere around 100 cinemas when we should have 3,000 or something. But it's a good model. It's a good first window when you're not commissioned by a streamer. The second model after that would be the streamers. They are the most, pronounced and fundamental window that there is. There's some ancillary things with, some TV rights maybe and some in-flight, modes of distribution. So I'll focus on the streamers. As the streamers go, there's commission and there's licensing. Yeah. Commission is pretty straightforward, and they commission you, they pay you to make the film. Not that many of those a year, but that's pretty straightforward. And then licenses are twofold. They have the pre-agreed amount, which some people call off-take or production, different things, output deal. That's what we have. We have a second output deal with Amazon, where they agree on an amount with you. They say the other time, you have to go finance it, make the film, bring it back to them, and they pay you that amount. And then there's the you've already taken the risk, you've made the film, you present it to them, and then you negotiate and take an amount. Both work. Neither is... But I would say we have been surprised as to how difficult it has been to still get financing even after a contract with an output deal from multiple sort of financiers. I know how long you worked with us last year to, on 3 or 4 financiers. I think that overall there's no simple answer, and some of the ingenuity that comes with being Nigerian is trying to figure out where you can scrape, claw, partner, level networks and things like that to get it financed. So you want to get your film financed and then present it, and hopefully that turns some returns for you. And that's what we've been able to do.
Yeah, and just riding on the back of that is the reality that on the one hand, I know that you have done self-funding and you have seen that at least that one in terms of risks is very low risk. But the challenge we have is even convincing the financial industry that this sector is a sector that is bankable. And it is a question of just basically pitching your tent where you know it is pitchable. We have had challenges, and I hope the banks are listening, even convincing them that whilst security is king in terms of any lending, but in this sector, we need to be a bit more creative and malleable in relation to how this sector will be funded. We have a lot of PCs and VCs who are very eager they have appetite for the tech sector. You said earlier on today that the tech sector is a lot more volatile than the entertainment sector, and yet a lot of the VCs and PE funds are very interested in investing in there. But the entertainment sector is looked at a little bit more differently. So this is our sermon that if professional advisors such as us are partnering with Nemsia Studios, it's because we recognize that there's a qualitative product that is being birthed and which can easily be exported. And the streamers are so interested in that product. So the value in partnering with them and banking them is from the fact that they are good exports for consumption. So we encourage the financiers in that regard.
If I could just say one more sentence
Yes.
too, I think one actual aspect of the consortium, so to speak, that may be not quite playing with us yet is, I don't know if it's the investment bankers or the people who sort of, if we wanted to start a nuclear plant today,
Yes.
some project finance and investment bank will come together and structure it, say this much debt, this much this, and then go to the investors and sort of raise that, the legal firm will be there, the person.
Yes.
I still think that's the part, because we have the Olaniwun Ajayis, we have the product makers, we have some of the PWCs and so on starting to play in the space, but you don't see those. I'm just here to structure the finance and figure out where the money will come from. We'll get the, that, maybe I should do the same appeal to them. Is they need to look at the space as quite interesting. And I mean, there's some stat that Nollywood is 3% of GDP.
Definitely.
And all of oil is 11%. I mean, that's an unbelievable stat.
Yes.
So if you put structure and, whether institutional long-term investment into it, it's going to surpass energy and oil and gas. And that's quite interesting.
I think we will get there. In relation to project finance, it's definitely easier when it comes to the construction industry infrastructure, because you can actually see the entire chain of how revenue and inflows are. But in relation to the entertainment sector, is a little bit different.
Yep.
And the banks are certainly not in the business of movie making, and they wouldn't see ready off-takers or buyers who they can license a script or whatever it is that it has been used as security, to. That said, however, we just need to be a lot more creative. And the lawyers and the financiers should work together in that regard. And also, the DFIs who have creative funds need to be a lot more malleable in ensuring that their conditions and qualifications are a lot less stringent than they have in place right now. But you have done very well, that notwithstanding.
We're fortunate.
But with the dirt and the difficulty of funding and financing as a whole, would you say that there's going to be a scramble for commission deals? Because that seems to be where there's a lot more buffer for
unfortunately, however, it's not practical. I mean, just in pure mathematics, the two big platforms which are here currently are probably going to commission between themselves maybe a couple dozen films this year.
Very minimal.
Which is minimal compared to the thousands of films that are going to come out of Nollywood this year. And so if everybody's vying for commissions, it's just not a viable, the arithmetic just doesn't make sense. And so the other models are really what we need to sort of make more robust. Self-financing, institutional financing, risk financing, all coming together to, be sold, and it brings in FX, it brings in, more eyeballs, brings in soft power, all kinds of things.
Okay, excellent. So maybe we also need to encourage greater synergy. So you have today people who are aggregators, bringing together music licensors and movie producers, and just ensuring that synergy keeps flowing. But one thing that we have seen that is missing is in relation to the actual content. A lot of producers are always focused on creating their own content and ensuring that everything stays within, all the way from content, script writing, all the way to the production. What happened to film adaptation of books? There are great authors out there. Nigerian content is already written by the Chinua Achebes, the Chimamandas, so many great storytellers. You have Clever Clogs. She's a fantastic storyteller. And I'm just wondering that why aren't producers gone in for that ready qualitative content and just doing movie adaptations?
It's an interesting point.
Like we have in other climes.
Yes, I've never, and we don't even scrape the barrel as it relates.
We love the documentaries, docu-features of real-life stories, but the fiction stories, yes.
I would guess that it's twofold. In part one, hubris and vanity. You sort of want your own story to be told. You've been given an opportunity. Why am I telling somebody else's story? And blah, 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 blah. But I do think a truly sort of honest other side to that is just the cost, right? I think we've spoken on financing, and a producer is fundamentally always first thinking about, one, can you get through the project, and then two, what's going to be left over for me? Okay. And even before you start the project, you've already spent a sizable amount on the IP, which makes sense because that's what's likely to make the project even better. But that's not how people see things, right? That sort of, again, remember that Nollywood started with just pick it up and go and do yourself, right? Not this sort of structured, thought through, long-term sort of vision for things, right? And so to that effect, I think, yes, I mean, I know Mo's done some Wale Soyinka stuff in the past, but you just hear the numbers that, people's estate call, for Fela or for, I wonder what it would be to get things fall apart now, or to, I'm sure Chimamanda is not smiling at anybody. I'm sure she's because to write, Purple Hibiscus is amazing. So it's not going to be
cheap.
It's not going to be cheap. So I think there's definitely a sense of they don't want to expend more cost than they think they need to, and then a vanity of I can do this myself. I may save the rights now. That. That sort of thing. And so I think we need to work on that, and maybe the same appeal you had to the bankers, maybe you need to have to the estates and the owners of these, and the trustees and the writers themselves. But I will say that what I take from that is it doesn't have to be the Chimamandas and the Chinua Achebes. There's many wonderful authors that aren't as popular, that would love a bigger platform for their stories. And that sense of collaboration needs to come across, even in children's books for animation and all kinds of things. I don't know if this was a setup. Now you have me thinking about it more. Maybe I need to think about... or maybe you're telling me my writing is not quite...
just different genre.
To the authors.
No. Your scripts are fantastic and all, but we were just thinking more of the synergy. I mean, half of A Yellow Sun actually was a brilliant, example of at least an attempt at that. But it would just be good to be able to tell the entire Nigerian story in one fell swoop.
Yes, but half a year cost 7 million.
Yes, it did.
So there you go. Yes.
Okay.
That actually
so they keep on doing
even more than. But absolutely.
But they're smaller writers, like you have said. But very well done. Like I said, we're just very proud of quality in particular. I mean, there's so many producers out there. We're very happy about what we see in our climb. But when we see something that is particularly qualitative in all areas, I mean, you want best film, you want best director, just so many key areas. We saw how the cinematography of Breath of Life was. even before 30, at a time when technology wasn't as advanced, was highly qualitative. And we say, keep doing what you're doing. We're here for you. We'll keep banking on you as we look forward to greater prospects. Thank you.
And I will say, for what it's worth, if you are not structured legally, absolutely, I don't know if they actually even appealing on a wide base, because that's how everybody will now
some creatives. Some creatives still know that they should know that they need legal advice. Generally,
absolutely should talk to Olaniwun Ajayi, not just because of the great minds that are here, but even the office there, you retention. 16 people asking you about coffee and Rwandan tea. It is fantastic. Thank you so much for everything over the years.
Always great to have you over. Thank you very much.
Come back again.
Okay. And just rounding up now on our Voxtero. We'll see you next time on our next episode. Bye-bye.